Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday night. Wow, this week has flown by. I can't believe we're already to Thursday. But welcome on. I am later than I had planned to be. And I'm actually coming to you with a topic that is different than what I originally planned. And part of that is why I am a little bit later than I planned to be. So it's been an interesting evening all around. It brought up this topic. I actually had a totally different topic that I was really excited to talk about tonight, and I'm now pushing it to my list for next week. So it gives you something to look forward to, or gives me something to look forward to, I guess. But I wanted to talk tonight, shifting my topic to what happens when everything just seems out of control, crazy, spinning away from you, exploding all at once, all those things, all those emotions. It can be any description. I've heard all those descriptions. How do you handle that? What do you do? Where do you go? What is your thought process? Do you spin out of control with it? Or are you able to rein it in and sort of roll with the punches? And it's been interesting because I've had several conversations with totally different people tonight on totally different situations where it is the stuff is hitting the fan, the poop is hitting the fan, and it just is just bad. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a full moon out there tonight. I don't know. I didn't look outside. I don't think it's a full moon. I know it's not a full moon, but it's like those are the kinds of things that people are just having a really tough time right now. And so I really wanted to talk about this because when I get one message or one phone call or one text with something like that happening, okay, I get two, it's a little crazier. When I get three or more, then I'm like, okay, this is what I've got to talk about because this is really going on. And tonight I had four, plus I had stuff going on in my house that was sort of like everything hitting the fan. One of my daughters today got some information that she really didn't like, and for her, in her world, it was the stuff hitting the fan and, helping her cope through it. So I wanted to come on and talk about that tonight because it feels just like it's really, really timely. If you were on here live, I see that there are a handful of people on here. Give me a hashtag live and let me know that you're here. If you were on in replay and you pick it up in replay, put a hashtag replay later on. But let me know that you can hear me because when I'm not seeing any comments or any likes, I don't know if you can actually hear me. And my internet's been a little wonky tonight. So if I freeze up or anything, just let me know. It seems smooth right now. But really, and I would love to hear from you. What do you do when everything just seems like it's spinning out of control and everything, right? It all comes at you at once. It's not just one problem, but it's 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or a whole list of things, right? And then you feel like your world is collapsing. Let me know if you've ever felt that way. Let me know. Well, I know we've all felt that way, but let me know if you felt that way recently. Hey, Francie. Hey, Katie. It is, world spinning out of control. What do you do? So I actually had a good friend of mine come to me tonight. It was sort of the last after I had already had several of these conversations, and it was just like complete meltdown and like really her world was spinning out of control. And so I said, okay, whoa, let's take a step back, right? And let's go through this systematically. And so as I was going through it systematically with her, I was really thinking about, okay, how can I share this with everybody else, right? So what do you do when everything feels like it's crazy? Everything feels so overwhelming. So what do? First of all, I stop and I take a deep breath, right? And I acknowledge how I feel. I acknowledge that I'm feeling stressed. I acknowledge that I'm feeling sad, mad, angry, frustrated, whatever those feelings are. I really pay attention to them and I really try to pinpoint what those feelings are, right? How am I feeling? Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I scared, right? Because a lot of times when everything is just coming at you, we're scared. And when we get scared, we freeze, right? And everything feels so much worse because we're frozen. We don't know where to go first. We don't know what to tackle first. So that's the first thing to do is acknowledge how you feel, really focus on it, know those feelings and own them, own it up, right? And write it down. Sometimes write down what you're feeling and which of those things, because usually it's not just one thing that hits us, but it's a whole bunch of things that hit us at once. So write down what those things are and write how each one of those things makes us feel. Because, right, one thing might terrify us. One thing might make us really angry. One thing might make us excited, right? Because even sometimes there can be happy things and sad things and whatever all mixed in together. Write those pieces down. The next thing is talk it out with somebody, right? I was so glad that when my friend reached out and she was willing to talk through it with me. Diane, I'm sorry that you had a horrible day. So hopefully this is timely for you too. I don't know what's going on here. It's that kind of day, it feels like. But talk it out with somebody, right? I was so glad when she reached out and was willing to open up and talk it out. And, she kept saying, I'm sorry I'm burdening you. I'm sorry I'm being a burden. You're not being a burden, right? That's what I'm here for. I'm your friend, right? I'm your friend. And I want to hear and I want to help. And I be a listening ear. So talk it out with somebody, right? Then next, try to see past what is really hardship. First, recognize what is really hardship and what is just an annoyance, right? Because there are certain things that really are hardships and there are certain things that are just annoyances. And when we can pinpoint out which are those things, the annoyances it doesn't seem quite as bad, right? And how we tackle it, right? Next thing, consider what you're experiencing, right? Is it really a catastrophe, right? Is this really something horrible in your life, or is it just an inconvenience, right? That's a big difference. And sometimes an inconvenience can feel like a catastrophe, but it's not really. And what I actually like to do, this suggestion was given to me a long time ago, is to make a list when I'm in a good place. Make a list of all the things that I would consider to be really a catastrophe, right? A terrible medical diagnosis would be a catastrophe. A bad car accident might be a catastrophe. A fire in my house would be a catastrophe, right? Things like that I would say are a total catastrophe, right? And I make that list and then I know, right? Does it fall into that thing, or is this something that I can handle a little bit better? So really identify that. Is this just an inconvenience, or is this something a catastrophe, right? That's the next thing. Practice acceptance, right? Accepting the fact that sometimes things spin out of control. Accepting the fact that we're not perfect, right? That things in our lives are not going to be perfect. Really practice that acceptance. That's really a big thing. And then ask for help. Reach out and ask others for help, because if you ask them for help, you're going to get help, right? And sometimes there are certain things that if we look at it, it can be solved with, paying somebody to do something to help you out, right? I'll tell you, when we were supposed to move last summer, the move that didn't happen, for those of you who weren't following me at that time, we had planned for an entire year. We had planned a huge move out of state, and it plans and plans and plans and plans, and they all fell through. Literally 24 hours before we were supposed to move, it all fell through. But before we were supposed to move, the week before we were supposed to go, I had said to my husband, we have a house full of, nice size house. We have 3 kids. We have a lot of stuff, right? And I said to my husband before we were going to move, I said, I am not packing our house. I'm just not doing it. That will stress me out. It will put me over the edge. I just knew myself, right? I could recognize all those things. I could acknowledge what my feelings were about this. I docked it out. I could see, I just knew. And I said, I can't do it. We have to hire someone to come in and pack us, right? And we did. We hired a team that came in and they did an amazing job and packed our house to then come back a few days later and unpack our house. Because again, I said, I'm not unpacking our house either. It was something that it was one of those things that it was going to cost me some money, but it was worth it because my sanity was worth it, right? It was to the point that I didn't care what, obviously if it was taking food off of our table, it would have been a different story, but it was my sanity, and my sanity was worth the money that it was going to cost us to have somebody pack us and then unpack us. Because I will tell you, the boxes that they did not unpack, and we are coming up, this was last August, the boxes that they did not unpack are still sitting packed in my basement. And they're things that I would like out. My shelves are still half bare with all my, my pictures and that kind of stuff that never made it back up because they didn't finish. We told them to go. We said, we'll take over the rest of it, and it never happened, which is why I paid somebody to do it in the first place. But really, it's super important, right? Asking for help, knowing what you can do. But one of the things that I love to do when I feel like everything is spinning out of control is I sit down and I take a piece of paper and I make a T-chart, okay? Line down the middle, line across the top. Hey, Karen. A T-chart. And on one side, I write can control, and on the other side, I wrote cannot control. Okay. So, and I start listing everything that's bothering me in one of those, everything fits in one of those 2 categories. If I can control it, it goes in the control category. If I can't control it, then it goes in the can't control. And even things that I can control my emotions about something happening. So I may not be able to control the exact circumstances. So, the situation that my daughter is really upset about, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but it's something none of us can control. It is out of our control. There is nothing we can do about it, right? And so this is something that I was talking to her about tonight. Like, okay, can you control this? No. Can I help with it? Can I control it? Can I do any more than what I'm doing? No. Can Daddy? No. Can all the other people involved? Is everybody doing what they can do? Yes. Okay. Can you do anything about it? No. Does getting upset and crying about it, does it change the problem? No. Okay. So we didn't write out the T-chart because I was trying to get her to go to bed, but it will be something that I will write out with her. Where are her feelings and how can you control them? Because those things that go into the can't control side, you got to let them go, right? And once you write it down and look at it in the can't control, it's easy to let them go, right? Because you can't do anything about it, right? You can't do a single thing about it, right? For instance, the weather. I'm not a big fan of the cold. I really don't like the cold. I complain about it all winter, which is hence the reason why we were supposed to move last year, part of it. I don't like the cold. But there's not a single thing I can do about the fact that it's cold in Michigan in the winter, right? When it snows, there is not a single thing I can do about the snow, right? But I can change my outlook on it. I can change certain things about it, but I gotta let it go. I cannot control the days that it's snowing. I can't control right now when it's raining and I don't love it and I don't get my walks because it's raining, right? I can't control that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to find things within that I can control. And when you recognize that and you look at that, everything seems so much easier because a lot of the things that we get hyped up about, we can't control. And if we can't, we let it go. And if we can, then we make a plan of action, right? We make a plan of action. What am I going to do to control this? So back to sort of my move, right? I was so paralyzed before we were supposed to move with the idea of packing up the house and doing everything and getting it all ready and doing all the things that we had to do to move. And I did. At the time, I made this T-chart at that time. It was things that I can control and things that I can't control, right? And there were certain things, right? I could control the packing of the house, but it didn't mean that I had to do it. I could find somebody else to do it for me. And then it took that burden off. And as soon as that was done, it was, I could feel better about it, right? So I could delegate things out, right? There are so many things in our lives that we don't have to deal with ourselves. There are certain things we do have to deal with, but when we look at it, what can I deal with, right? When it's somebody else that's driving us crazy and somebody else that's sending us over the edge, because sometimes that's what it is, we can't control somebody else's actions, right? If I'm driving you crazy, well, then you can leave my life, right? In my life view, but if I'm driving you crazy, that's not about you, right? That's you can walk away from me, right? You can eliminate me from that, right? If what I'm doing, and I teach this to my kids all the time, right? I have one kid who's annoying another kid, and I say, just walk away, right? Don't let them bring you in. Don't suck you into what's going on, right? So it's looking at it. Is this something that I can do something about or not? And if you can, great. Then go make a plan of action and do it. If you can't, walk away, right? That's what we all tell our, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who tells my children this, but I know I'm not. But we have this all the time, right? Yesterday, my girls were just bickering like a 10 and 12-year-old bicker. Right? And one was taunting the other. One wanted to borrow something from the other. And first she said yes. And then she said no. And so then the one that wanted it started calling her selfish, right? All this stuff. And I kept just saying, just walk away. Just stop being, somebody's going to have to stop snarking. And yes, Jackie, exactly. You need to stay in your own hula hoop. That is exactly right. But somebody's going to have to stop being snarky about this, right? And when somebody takes the high road and stops and walks away, a lot of it goes away. So that's what I just want you to remember as, the poop is hitting the fan. When that's happening, really take a step back and figure out what's going on. Figure out how much of it you can control and how much you can't. And out of those things that you can control, can somebody else help you through some of those pieces? Like either whether it's physically doing something, right? Whether it's physically like in my house, coming and packing up the house, right? Or is it somebody just being a listening ear? What can they do for you? Where can you lean into your community? Where can you lean into your support system, right? That's so important. And when you find that, all of a sudden, those things that feel so terrible and the burdens that are sitting on your shoulders, all of a sudden, a lot of those start to loosen up, start to go away. It's not going to solve everything, right? It's not going to fix the problems, all of them. But some of them it will. Some of them will disappear. But then those that doesn't fix will be much more manageable because you won't feel so overwhelmed by all the little stuff that's clouding what's really going on. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that, these tips, can give you something if you're in this situation where everything is just having a terrible day or a terrible week, or, hopefully this will help you be able to turn it around. And remember, we live in, life is in seasons, right? Whether we're talking weather seasons, whether we're talking really summer, winter, summer, spring, fall, seasons, or seasons of where things are good and things are bad in our lives. And one of the beautiful things is the seasons always keep changing. So if you're in a time that's really tough right now, just know that's not going to last forever. Just like in my world, winter does not last forever, right? We're hopefully heading into spring. It's, we're getting teased with spring around here a little bit. The calendar says it's spring, right? But I know that this season is going to be over. Winter is finally going to end here sometime, and we're going to get spring, and then we're going to get summer, right? And it's going to make that loop around. But that's the same in our lives. When things are tough, it's a tough season. And they will end. It will end, and we will move on through, and we will pull through, and we will go into the next season, right? So when you look at it that way, it doesn't feel as overwhelming, right? These seasons are going to pass, and they're going to go on. So I hope you have a great night. I hope this is helpful. If you're struggling, hopefully some of these tips can help you process through and really not let it be so overwhelming. But if you'd like to talk through it with me, please feel free. Anytime, reach out. I'm a listening ear anytime you want. And if you need help making that T-chart, I find it so helpful. I have my kids do the T-charts as well. I'll sit down with them and we'll write it out. Things you can control and things you can't control. Because when you eliminate those things that you can't control, like I said, it just takes this weight off your shoulders. So I hope you have a great night. I am going to sign off now and finish up what I'm going to do here and head to bed. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow. Definitely not as late because the Sabbath starts tomorrow, so it will be much earlier. But I hope you have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.